Thanks for joining us for another episode of Four Friends in a Book. My name is Chris Colston, and of course, I'm here with my friends Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, Laria Reed, and this book for the month of January, our Georgia boy, Young Jeezy.
Snowman.
The Snowman with Adversity for Sale.
Mm-hmm.
So look, check this out, y'all. We are in a new year. Happy New Year, man. We made it to 2025.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Just still can't believe it again. We are in year 4 of Four Friends in a Book. Look, our little pandemic dream that started in 2021, we still rocking, still reading books, still having conversation here on this podcast. So if you guys are tuned in for the very first time, again, please go back and check us out. We are a book club, book reviewers. Mick was just table talk amongst friends. And so we read books each month, have discussions about those things and things that may or may not be related to those books as well. So go back, get current with Four Friends in a Book. And also, if you have any book recommendations, any topics you want to hear us talk about here on Four Friends in a Book, look, send us an email, send us a DM. Like, just let us know. We would love to hear from you guys as well. So let's jump into it. So as I mentioned, new year, and we like to look, I think we all like different genres of book, but I think we all agree that these autobiographies and memoirs are, we all pretty much on the same page today. We love those here on Four Friends in the Book. So a Georgia boy kicking us off for 2025, Young Jeezy, Mr. J. Jenkins with Adversity for Sale. So again, just kind of touching on his life journey. Like, we know Jeezy as a rapper, just AKA the Snowman. And look, if y'all aren't familiar with him, look, that 2000 era trap music wave was crazy. Look, if you was in the club, if you was doing anything at the time period, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with his songs. And so he has now blessed us with a book. And so we're going to talk about it. We're going to unpack it. We're going to discuss it here on Four Friends in the Book. So let's get into it. You guys already know what the first question is. I ask it every episode. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be for my boy, Young Jeezy?
I don't do that every time. No.
Look, Adversity for Sale. And so I'm going to let Miss Kimberly Lake kick this show off. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be?
What did I think about this book? Well, I enjoyed the book. What I loved most about the book was it felt like I could relate to it. Because, we did, what's her name? Lord Jesus, her name, she done passed on. Memoir.
Cicely Tyson.
Yes. Like when you read her memoir, it's like I wasn't a part of that era. But now it's like I'm getting to the point where, I'm older and these books are like, I can relate to them. And of course, we're all in Georgia and we're all in middle Georgia. So a lot of what Young Jeezy was talking about, the locations and places, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Salim's Fit. Okay, yeah. Making this, that. So it was like very relatable to me. And it was very nostalgic because, he's talking about his rise and, so the 2000s and up, that's when, high school, they going to college. So that was prime time to be in the club, listening to all the Lil Jon and then Jeezy and everybody, T.I., everybody he was talking about. So I enjoyed that. I listened to it on Audible. He read it. I did enjoy him reading it. When he was reading it, he sounded like the BET narrations on them films. Every time. That's how he sounded to me. But I enjoyed it. I thought his story was interesting. It's not nothing like my life. So I was like, oh, okay. I felt like I was in the trap and, doing all this stuff. So,
in the trap.
Cooking in the kitchen, as he said. So I was like, okay, I can see that. So I enjoyed the book. If I could rate it,
it's hard right here.
No, I'm like, I give it an 8.
Man, that was a long pause. I was
It was.
Think about it, right?
Yeah, think about it.
But I give it a solid 8. And I think a lot for me, it was because I could relate to it and it's very nostalgic for me. So I could get with it. So there we go.
Okay. So kicking the show off with an 8 for Adversity for Sale from Mr. Jeezy Jenkins. All right, so coming to my brother next, man. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it, what would that be?
So I've been a fan of the Snowman since high school. And you know, when you think about young Jeezy, you just think about like a hustler from the street who just made it big. But when I read this book, it's like, it dives deeper than that. Like he talks about his upbringing, his career, his mindset that actually drove him to actually get it out the mud. It's different when they're rapping about these songs, but when they actually talking about how they actually got out the mud, I'm like, I got like a whole new level of respect of actually how he actually made it. And you know what? You talked about it earlier about the memoirs. I like when people write their own memoirs because nobody can tell your life story the way you can tell it because you actually lived it. And I think that anyone who actually reads this book, they actually find something like positive to take away from it. You know, he created like a successful business. He wasn't waiting on a handout. He invested in himself fully, you know, to take care of not just himself, but he reached back to actually get, you know, see about his family, you know, build houses for them, build up the community. And that's a whole nother level of respect because sometimes people on the lookout for self, but when you actually trying to bring up your whole neighborhood and community with you, that's a whole nother level of boss that we'd be looking for, that we actually strive to do. You know, for Jesus, for me, like that legitimate of earning like his own money or doing his own thing, like I have a whole new respect after reading that book. Like a lot of the stories that I kind of knew, but when he was breaking it down or he was in those streets, like, oh, Jesus was out there. And, you know, I'm going to follow, you know, Kim Lake. You know, this was a great book and I also rated it an 8.
Okay. Kicking it off. So 2 8s for Adversity for Sale from the Snowman himself. All right. So coming to Laria Reed. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be?
Okay. Well, I heard, so it's really, it's kind of odd because I don't know why I never ran into Jeezy because we were around the same age. Because I'm thinking like, I was at some of this stuff, like, why I never met you? But, you know, with his lifestyle, I probably wouldn't have never met him. But at the same time, him being from, being in Hawkinsville, that was like literally maybe 25, 30 minutes from where I grew up at our home. And I know some people from down there. I thought he was from Macon, but I didn't know the whole story until, of course, we read the book. So when he was talking about his family was from, because one of my friends was like, yeah, we used to play basketball with him all the time. This is years ago he told me that. And I was like, really? With Jeezy? He was like, yeah. And he told me his name was Jay and all that. And I was like, what? But I didn't realize, you know, from listening to the books, I did it on Audible. His life is just so... what's the word for it? You know, we read so many books that are like Black culture and education and making sure that we, you know, the people that we've read about, they came from humble beginnings. But when he talked about his grandmama, totally it was like, look, baby, we ain't said none of that. Yeah, your cousins doing stuff, but your auntie, everybody is doing their thing, but we got to make it out. So, you know, turn your eye. And I was just floored because I'm like, you know, with the stuff we read before, it's like grandmama was like the wise lady and you get your education, son. But his grandma was like, look, I don't see nothing. I don't hear nothing. I don't know nothing. Y'all do what y'all do and give me my rent money and give me some money to buy my stuff, you know? So, that take on it was very kind of like, woo, okay. So, all right, we in a whole nother world. But I appreciate the, I was actually kind of concerned. I'm like, did your lawyer say this is okay to say all of this stuff?
I know, right? He went in.
Because, I mean, you went in there, bro. You was talking about where you had this million, that million. I'm like, okay, can we still be incriminated in this stuff? Like,
dope boy money.
Yeah. Like I said to you guys off camera, Visions nightclub in Atlanta back in 02, 03 was popping. So when he said that, he was not lying. I'm a testimony of that. We used to have a good time with that. But I really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed his take on it. His life story is crazy. And I'm glad he wrote this book. And I also, I was thinking about it on my way to this. And I was like, an 8 would be good. And you guys said the same thing. So I'm giving it an 8 as well.
There you go.
Okay.
Look, 3 8s for our boy Young Jeezy. Adversity for Sale. All right. So I enjoyed this book. I did. I spent the block on this one. So I read this book back in 2023. So I was already familiar with the book.
Okay.
Listened on Audible and spent the block on it and re-listened again because, as Kim mentioned, he does narrate it himself. And so who better to hear his story from than himself? And so to hear him speak his words, his life in that form was good. So as I mentioned kind of opening the show, I think the autobiographies are something that we kind of all agree upon or is a great genre, and especially when it's relatable. And so, again, we all, kind of 80s babies. And so we grew up in this era where getting to this young adulthood in the early 2000s where we were either in college, transitioning out of high school into college, or even like young adult life. And man, if you was anywhere on the college campus, in the club, whatever, like Jeezy was just killing the airwaves. And so that was just a great time period. And so that nostalgia and now hearing the kind of behind the scenes is just, I don't know, it's just something different. It hit a little different. And so
it does.
As Laria mentioned, growing up in Hawkinsville, which is again right down the road from us here, and talking about I-75 going up to Macon, going up to Atlanta, so very relatable in that regard. And just even hearing his life story, his journey of starting out stealing as a little kid at the Coke machine and to where he is now. So I thoroughly enjoyed the book. Thoroughly enjoyed hearing his life story. And like I said, we kind of know Jeezy the rapper, but hearing that behind the scenes or that alternative perspective was kind of very rewarding, and just kind of hearing that take on it was good for me. So if I had to rate this book, I'm gonna follow suit, y'all, because I was actually thinking 8 as well before we started. So again, I read it back in the day, spent the block on it, read it again. And I think it is a good, solid 8. Good story, and just so relatable again to our culture, our demographic. That period of time. I'm pretty sure we all have a favorite Jeezy song. It just puts us back into a certain moment of being somewhere. There's probably a good moment and a bad moment at the same time. Them club days in the 2000s, boy, they was the club different now, but in the 2000s, like you was dancing and you was really getting it in and drinking.
Everybody was dancing. Yeah.
It was a different time period, and he was making the music specifically for those environments. So, all right, so look, we got 4 8s. We unanimous here on 4 Friends of the Book, kicking this review off for my boy Jenkins. Adversity for Sale. You gotta believe. All right, so we kind of talked on it a little bit, touched on it a little bit, and you guys kind of tapped into some of those moments throughout the book. But I mean, he definitely has a very colorful, I was looking for a good word, a colorful life.
Very colorful.
Again, humble beginnings growing up kind of in middle South Georgia and Hawkinsville, Georgia. Even spending some time in Japan. His dad was in the military, so being stationed over there and him going to visit, doing stuff over there, coming up to Macon, Georgia, getting into the drug game, moving to Atlanta, still doing the same, but trying to dabble into music. Just so many different stories, so many different activities that were going on throughout his life. And even just some of the struggles and some of the triumphs to kind of see where he is now. Which part of his story really kind of stood out to you guys as you were reading or listening to his journey of, again, just starting out as a young kid to the Jeezy or the Jay Jenkins that we know today? And I'm coming to my brother on this one, man. Did you have a favorite moment or just something that really stood out to you as you were, I guess, learning about his story and his background?
I did. It's funny, before I get into that, the way that young Jeezy actually wrote his book, he's a really good storyteller because the way that he will actually paint a picture, like you will feel that you are actually in his room doing the things that they are doing. Like some like, man, I feel like I'm in the room too. But one of my favorite stories that stuck out with me was his story when he actually was talking about when he was in the studio booth and T.I. was in there and T.I. pulled him to the side. And he talked about T.I., even though he was his peer, but T.I. was a little further ahead of him based on the albums that T.I. had already released. But Young Jeezy was trying to get on that level. But between Young Jeezy's life, he was trying to get on that level, but he couldn't leave that street life alone. So T.I. actually pulled him to the side, came out into the hallway, looking in the bathroom stalls, looking in the booth, just to make sure that nobody interrupts this conversation because he wanted to have that one-on-one private conversation with them. And T.I. told Jeezy, like, if you want to get to this side of the music, the boss man being at the table, you got to leave that street life alone. So Jesus taking the bet, like, I'm listening to your music, trap music. Like, I'm thinking that you out there in the streets doing what I'm doing. Until like, no, I've been there for long. I just make the music. Like I'm on a different hustle, man. And I think that's when I think it really clicked for Young Jeezy that, okay, I'm trying to get on this level. So I need to leave that street level life alone. And you don't see that a lot when people trying to mentor you and bring you up in the game as well, too. And I think that this story was like very powerful. Like it shows like an example of like a turning point in his life. Just one conversation, one moment can just transfer your life and put you in like a different trajectory. So I think that's the best story that actually stood out for me. Like he had a lot of colorful stories, like Chris say, but that's the best one that stood out for me because those are some of the people that I listened up growing to. And just for saying like those humble beginnings, like, that was a good read for me.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, T.I. Shout out to T.I.P.
Trap music.
Yeah. And literally just telling him, look, man, you can't do both. Like it's got to be one or the other. And I think it may have taken him a little while for it to fully sink in, but I think ultimately he did go back to that word and finally realize. So yeah. All right, good, brother. Yeah. Good. Coming to Laria next. Did you have a favorite moment, story, activity, or just something you were kind of in awe of finding out about Young Jeezy?
It was a lot of stuff. I was going to say the T.I. thing. I was just like, okay, what I'm going to pick now? So one thing that it's two little things. I'll say the first thing was I really felt bad for him as a child because I just felt like the people around him kind of failed him in a sense. Like, I just didn't feel like it was like everybody was just trying to survive. Yes. So nobody was there to kind of steer him, help him in school. He was being bad in school, didn't feel like he could do anything in school. Like nobody was there to kind of help mold him into more of a positive direction. So I felt really bad. And I felt bad for the income level of his family too, because everybody was just trying to survive. So that was one thing. And the second thing was when his vocal cords popped.
Oh yeah.
And he was almost there. He was like, what? Like, I'm almost here. And so that was the second thing that really but it slowed him. I felt like it was God once again because it slowed him down so that he could really be what he was supposed to be. He felt like it was a setback, but it was really that adversity he talked about. Right. It was really helping him and pushing him in the right direction because everything still went according to plan. And if not better, I mean, everything, it was like crazy how he was like, and then my tape got leaked and I knew somebody did it, but it ended up being perfect. And then people came out on the Tuesday night divisions. I didn't think they were going to be there. And Beyonce and Jay-Z were there and this person, that person, like everything ended up working out the way it was supposed to work out. So I believe that it held true to the title of the book about adversity. If he wouldn't have been able to go through those things, it all ended up working perfectly for him. So now I don't know if you know the Lord, but the Lord was with you all the way.
Right.
So yeah, but I enjoyed a lot of the stories he gave. Like Isaiah said, it was so many, but those really stuck out to me.
I think for me, one of the stories that really kind of stood out was him even kind of giving the background about like him and Gucci Mane. So we all know like the beef.
Oh yeah.
And the strife that came out of like him and Gucci and how like, but we never really knew like, I guess what really happened it was always kind of hearsay. And so for him to kind of speak on that and give his perspective as far as how things went left or even how they started and how things may have turned left. I was really intrigued by that story. And also for him to end the book talking about, their versus battle and how he was kind of really had a lot of reservations about doing that, not really thinking that like, this ain't the right time and this could really go horribly wrong. And I think again, we talking about this pandemic time period, like we were all like in front of our phones watching verses when they were coming out. And so even that one was like a very heated verses. And we was like, it's about to go down. But for them to kind of end up and finish the show doing Icy, which was kind of the thing that brought them together, but also kind of brought them apart as well. And so I think hearing that story was just really kind of good for me to kind of get that background and his perspective, and even to hear him kind of reflect and say like, hey, if I had to do this over, I probably would do this a little differently, or I would have done this, or I wouldn't have put this diss track out because like things really could have gone wrong. And even to all you guys' point, like how LaRidge just meant it, like the Lord was with this boy because he got a chapter called 9 Lives, and like he really like all these things were going or could have gone horribly wrong, but he was like, by the grace of God, he was really like skirting around, like not being shot. I mean, he driving down the interstate shooting at folks. He in the club shooting at folks. Like, but even hearing those stories is like that. I mean, that was just like I said, that was the lifestyle, and he was literally living these moments that he was rapping about. Whereas some of the other rappers were really just kind of faking it till they make it. Like, nah, he was really about that life. And so just all the stories he had throughout this book was just very intriguing. And again, like I said, we all grew up in this era of time. So hearing his music and to really hear the stories behind him of him doing the stuff that he was rapping about was kind of, I enjoyed it. So it was very entertaining and kind of just intriguing to hear that. All right, so coming to Kim next on this topic, again, just a story, moment, or something that you would just find intriguing or about learning about Mr. J. Jenkins, a.k.a. Jeezy, a.k.a. the Snowman.
I will say, I was going to say what Isaiah said earlier, and he did a wonderful job with that, so I won't piggyback off of that. But one small thing that it was just intriguing to me, and it's kind of random in the story, but when he's talking about Jacob the jeweler, because I remember growing up, every rapper on MTV, like everybody had a Jacob the jeweler watch, Ray, like everything. He was everywhere, and then come to find out, the watches would like work together $3,500. I was like, Jacob was out here living.
He was like, hustling the hustle.
Hustling all the hustle. Right. He said, well, if you ever need some money, let me know. Bring the watches back. I got you. And I'm like, Jacob out here, is he in hide? I don't know where he is, because I'm like, Jacob was lying to all of us.
Yeah, Jacob owe everybody a refund.
So I thought that was just funny because I mean, Jacob the jeweler was synonymous with like hip hop and rap back then. Everybody dropped his name, so that was just a little funny story I liked. And overall, with Jeezy, I think what stuck out to me most is his tenacity and his belief in himself, like believe in yourself. But he really did believe in himself, and he worked hard. Like everywhere he went, whatever he did, whether he was in the boot camp, whether he was selling drugs, like whatever, he really committed 110% to it. And I think that's the people that make it. It's like the people that actually stick with it. As Willie Reed says, stickability. If you stick with it, it's like you eventually make it. So I think in his character wise, that's what stood out to me the most overall in the book.
That's good. That's good.
That's true.
So you guys have kind of already touched on it a little bit, but even talking about this adversity and like some of these struggles and things that he has gone through. And so his take on it is that some of those adversities and struggles have been like the best teachers for him. Kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on that. Like, do you truly feel like adversity like is the best teacher? Sometimes like learning those lessons you're on your own is the best method of really trying to evolve and grow. So just kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on some of those struggles and adversities. Is it the best teacher? Kind of why or why not? And I'm open the floor to whoever want to speak on this one. Adversity. What do you think about it?
I can start. I'll let you go.
No, just for me, I think it depends on the person. Like me, I don't need adversity to teach me. I can look at somebody else's adversity. I don't have to personally experience adversity. It's
you
like the Bible says. Like the Bible says, like with a a wise person learns from other person's mistakes, and that's how I am. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I think it just depends on the person and your personality. Of course, adversity, going through it does teach you things, just like failing in life and everything else. So I think that is true, but I don't think it's needed all the time and for everyone. But I think for him to get where he needed to get, like that was the path he had to go, and the adversity really helped him propel him to where he is. So I think it's true and false depending on the person to me. Or I don't want to say false, but needed and not needed. It just depends, a case by case basis. Okay. But that's how I feel.
Isaiah, you want to touch on that as well? What were your thoughts?
My thoughts was like, I just want to get it from one of my favorite chapters, chapter 9, Branding 101. And Christian making me a quotes guy. You know, I'm not used to these quotes.
Hey, drop them, man. Drop them.
So my boy Jesus said, you know, the truth is that perfection is an impossible goal. It's good to shoot for it, but at a certain point, you just got to let things go. The power is in doing. You never know how people will respond to your work until it's out there in the world. And I am truly a firm believer of that. Like, you have to have a goal. You have to do whatever it takes to actually accomplish that goal. I don't even care if you have to jump through hoops or move an ocean if you actually want to, accomplish that goal. So I'm just built to believe that just anything is attainable. I don't like when people project their insecurities on others to try to tell you what's impossible. You want to tell me that I can't do something. Oh, you just had to put a battery in my back at that point as well, too, because I have a actual point to prove that I'm going to do it. You know, at this stage of my life, I just learned just to stop entertaining negativity. And, you know, you have to actually just learn to let that mindset go. I know for myself, I just had to recognize that, you know, some stuff will actually throw me off my track and actually make me lose my focus. And I'm aware that everybody's not in that same stage of life that you are. And sometimes you have to be okay with it. And you also have to be okay that actually sometimes it'll be lonely when you're actually trying to build something. But that's the game. It starts like that. Like you say, I'm different than Kim. I need that adversity. Like, I need to actually get it out the mud. And because when I fail at something or when I fall something, it just makes me bounce back up even quicker. You know, I know what it feels to be at that bottom level, and I know what it is like to get it out the mud. So I need that adversity sometimes to let me know that sometimes you just can't give up. Like, you just have to keep going there to push yourself, which nothing is wrong with actually looking at how a person actually got it. But sometimes with me, I just have to go through that different stage to let me know that what I'm actually capable of being made of, or what I'm made of. I'm sorry.
Okay. So I said all about the adversity, man. So he gonna get it out the mud and keep pushing, and
I'm gonna keep pushing,
make it happen. Okay, L'Oreal, what are your thoughts on this whole concept of adversity being the best teachers? Why or why not?
I think it is for some people. Some people can't handle adversity, depending on their personalities. They just say, you know what, forget that. I ain't doing that no more. But a person like him that's been at the bottom, and you like, his personality is like, I ain't gonna be like this. So we kept seeing that over and over and over throughout the book, and even in his life that he talked about. So I believe for the personality, for me, adversity, in seeing it, yes, it hurts. And he even talked about when he would have setbacks, how he would just be like, man, I think I'm done, or, you know, I can't go no more. But he always had a moment to lament or go down for a second, and then he would come back ready to roll. And I can understand that, because I'm the same way. It takes me a second. I get knocked down, but it's like, okay, all right, we ain't gonna stay here though. We got to get back up.
Let's go.
Let's roll. So, and even in his drug dealing, it ain't the right thing to do. But he was like, I got to fund my own project. Ain't nobody going to come and save me. So let me go out here, get these millions and doing what I got to do. And then I can, do what I need to do. So yeah, he made it do what it do now. It wasn't always right. And he didn't say it wasn't, but
Yeah,
He made it work.
He was definitely putting up his own money. And looking to your earlier point, he talked about a lot of illegal activities, and I do wonder, like, man, like, I don't know what the statute of limitations is on some of this stuff. Like, bro, you was putting a lot of information out here, and people was going to jail, and he wasn't. But yeah, it was crazy. I think for me, like the adversity portion, and kind of to Kim's point, I think it can be necessary at sometimes. Even Isaiah and Larry, how you mentioned. Especially for young men, I think sometimes we feel somewhat invincible sometimes. Even when you hear like information from older men or your parents or your elders and they tell you certain stuff, it's like, no, they don't apply to me. So sometimes you have to go through those adverse moments or those difficult moments to kind of learn for yourself.
That's true.
And I think it oftentimes helps to appreciate things better if you have gone through like a hardship or it took you a while to kind of master or get through something, because once you get on the other side of it, you can kind of really appreciate, I guess, the struggle or what it took to really accomplish this goal.
That's true.
One of the other things he kind of talked about and I thought was really kind of powerful, and he actually made a great correlation because, you know, I'm a techie guy. So, he talked about how in Silicon Valley in the tech industry, like one of the notions is to, fail first and fail fast. Or fail often. And so
my favorite
in
chapter.
That mindset, like you're failing, but there's a lesson to be learned in that. And so you want to do that as soon as possible so you can retool, regroup, and get out ahead of your competitors to be better on the next iteration. And I think that is an amazing concept if you kind of, to Laria's point, if you had the tenacity or the mindset to take that as a teachable and learnable lesson, opposed to just like letting this failure like devastate and wreck your whole life. So I think adversity can be a great teacher. I still agree. Learning lessons from others and some of their failures is the best teacher because you don't have to go through those hardships. But if you do, like, don't let them like devastate you. Use it as a teachable moment to kind of grow and learn from and expand and be better the next time around. So, and I think Jeezy was definitely the epitome of that throughout his journey of, again, stealing Cokes out the Coke machine, selling them double ups in Hawkinsville, Georgia, to, producing his own, fronting his own money for his albums, his records, his studio time. I mean, he was definitely taking those adverse moments and making the best of them. So, yeah. All right. So, look, just wrapped up this review of that boy, Young Jeezy.
I was about to hit it for you.
In the forefront. Yeah. So, look, just wrap that up. We got 8 across the board on the review. Like, you guys haven't, definitely check out Adversity for Sale. You Gotta Believe by Jenkins, also known as Young Jeezy or Jeezy. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to kind of keep it somewhat related. So we've been talking about Jeezy. So rap, just the hip hop culture. And again, talking about this 2000 era of music. And so at that point, we were within the crunk and the trap music era of rap. But I think things are kind of transitioning now. So even kind of talking about the state of rap right now. So, there's been a lot of debate about, Kendrick and Drake and J. Cole and just even the lyrical content as far as what or how hip hop culture and the message that's being presented. So D1 has gotten a lot of traction as far as being, I guess, kind of coming down on some of the rappers as far as their messaging and what they're talking about, and kind of calling certain rappers out, and even just kind of seeing the transition of hip hop and the culture and rap. And so kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on the current state of rap music and the hip hop culture, where they're talking about like the lyrical, like the lyricism right now, or like the consciousness of the lyrics. We went through this whole little I don't even know what you call these little young rappers, the mumble rap era. So like we've gone through these different eras of just hip hop and rap culture. What kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on the current state of rap and what you feel like we are in now. I don't think Jeezy really making music no more, but it's just he got music.
Yeah. 2 albums.
Well, look, I'm gonna let you jump into this topic. Then, what do you think the current state of hip hop rap culture? Whether it's like, is it getting better, more conscious rap? Is it getting worse? Like, what's your take on the current state of hip hop and rap culture?
My take is, I think a lot of it is that a lot of these new artists are so sensitive. When you go back into the area, New York think they started hip hop. Atlanta actually put it on the map, but this West Coast is actually, what actually drove it home. But with these new artists that we have now, like a lot of them, this fast music. When you making an album every year like Drake, I can't keep up with what's going on. But Kendrick, if you talk about that blackness, that self-conscious, Kendrick is the guy for me. I actually really start getting into his music, not this album, but the album before that. And I'm like, Kendrick, that guy, like if you really listen to his music, like that lyrics is like, those words, like, when you hearing it, like when you have your beats on, like it's a whole different era. Like that Drake, I think Drake is like that fast fashion. Like he made so much music, put so much stuff there. He tried to have that house party music. Like Drake, like what are you doing? Like what are you doing? And instead of like getting into the studio, you want to do all this. You trying to sue the guy as well too. That claim that your record label is behind it. But I think it's just like this new era. I'm not getting with it. Like it's just so much out there. Like I'm into like that good old school hip hop. Even before the Kendrick time, I'm talking about Outkast, T.I., Good and Mob, those eras. Those are when I talk about hip hop. Those hip hop legends, Jeezy. We can't forget about him because he's one of my favorites as well too. But these new guys, no shade or nothing to it. These Migos, I just can't get with them. I'm still listening to my old school. Like I can't.
No,
I can't get with this new school.
Laria, Ken, what are your thoughts on, again, it's been trending for a while. It's kind of died down now, the whole Drake, Kendrick, at this point, I think Kendrick kind of won. Like, we ain't heard from Drake no more, but just even the state of kind of rap as far as the lyrical content, I guess even, or more conscious music. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think the current state? Like I said, we talked about Jeezy in the 2000 look. It was all about the club. Like it was all club at that point. But what do you think the current state or the current movement of hip hop and rap culture is today?
Well, I guess I'll go.
No, all right.
Well, it's kind of odd because we hear this every generation. So except for now, you talked about early 2000s, Isaiah. I'm 90s rap. So that was when I was growing up and in high school and all that. So I was like, we really had some good rappers because that was the Tupac and the Biggies and the Dr. Dre's and Snoops and all that, but then, and I'll bring it from, I love talking about the female perspective. At that time, we had like MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, that kind of thing. So now you look at it and you got Sexy Red and, what? We had like, there really aren't any conscious publicized. I'm not saying they're not there, but female rappers now at all that I can just name off the top of my head that about in mainstream.
Rhapsody.
I love Rhapsody.
Yeah, okay. But I mean that's like one.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I could see the evolution because we had all these strong like female rappers, and then it went from that to like Kaya, Lil Kim. It kept going. We kept going down. We kept going.
I told you.
But even with rap, I remember growing up, Uncle Luke and Raheem the Dream. That's a Georgia person. But it was like so many, with the I was about to say the booty shaking music, but that is what it is.
That's what it was.
But, you know, it's like, it's always in every era, it's always that question like, well, who's going to be conscious? You're going to always have somebody that's more conscious. And I think that one needs the other. And I don't think that you should just have one genre. I want everybody to win and do well, but I don't want us to sell our souls just to get some records out. And I would hate to have gotten to a place and then look back at my life and said, oh, I just wonder about that. But anyway, that's my take.
Red.
But I like Glorilla.
Oh, look, I like Glorilla.
But I do like Glorilla.
Yeah, now, Loretta, I think you bring up a good point because I think there has been such or somewhat of a balance. So, you know, even when talking about like, you know, 90s rap or the conscious rap, you know, you had your Talib Kweli's, you had your Commons, which were more considered like more conscious rappers at those time periods. Your Nas's, you know, so it's like, it was a good blend in the mix, but you still had some of those outliers that were considered more, like they didn't really have no club music. They just had, they were more conscious rappers. And so you're seeing some of that same stuff now where, you know, we look at Drake as being kind of more mainstream and now Kendrick shifting gears as far as being or having a better message or the messaging. But you still have your same kind of, you know, club mumble rap type stuff that's still kind of, you know, maybe hot for a little second as well. So, you know, as they say, history does repeat. And so I think we are still seeing somewhat of the change or kind of our snapshot of those same evolutions where, you know, there are some music out here that like it's hot for a moment, but it probably won't stand the test of time. Like, you know, even when you listen to the radio now, it's like they still playing stuff from the, you know, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s. Like I wonder now, is this, you know, this 2025 music going to be played, you know, the next 10 to 15 years? Like, will it still be in rotation like some of the music that we have or enjoy from our past? So it's different, it's weird, but I do agree and think that this kind of is just kind of repeating itself to a certain regard. But your boy, look, I'm definitely Team Kendrick, man. I applaud him and some of those other conscious rappers because music is a universal language, and I think there is power in the music. Some people can't make the separation as far as entertainment and the content. So I think it could lead certain people down a wrong path of thinking that this music is maybe real life, but I just appreciate the lyricism and just being able to convey a message or paint a picture with words opposed to just having a high beat and not really talking about that. And so it's my little 2 cents on that. Coming to Kim next, what are your thoughts on, you know, just the state of rap music, hip hop culture as a whole?
I follow D1 on Instagram, so I know like he's big on calling out rappers, and you know, because I get what he's saying. I feel like now, especially, it's not as balanced. So it's what D1 is calling out is like the predominant content of rap overall. So it's just like no variety or balance. Like I said, I love Rhapsody. I think she's great, but like they're not going to push Rhapsody because that's not what's in or, you know, what's selling or whatnot. So I agree with D1 because I do think music is powerful, you know. But I also agree with Maria. It doesn't mean like you just like every rap you like, you know, just super conscious on whatever level you can have fun and everything. But I just think there needs to be a more, I think artists do need to take responsibility of what they're putting out, because even though it might be entertainment, there are impressionable people, and it does influence people. Like people, I know they, a lot of rappers say like, you know, I'm just rapping about it, but I'm not trying to glorify it. But I'm like, well, if you got $1.5 million in the trunk and I ain't poor, I'm like, that's, you know, that's something that seems achievable to me, you know, that I see around me in my environment. So I think as far as hip hop, I would like to see a more balanced group of artists out, so you can have more than one, you know, voice out there than what it is now.
All right. So it's time to transition a little bit, you know, get to our favorite segment of the show, Wouldn't be a show without it, which we entitled The Rant. So coming from none other than Mr. Rant Man himself, kicking off January 2025.
Yes.
So my brother, look, he's just speak from the heart. We never know what we getting, what he gonna talk about. Like, so we watching The Rant. We like it's new to us as well. Like it's unscripted. Him just talking about whatever may be on his mind and his heart. So we give him 60 seconds to just speak and just kind of go with it. So my brother, the floor is yours once again. Starting now. Go.
Erin Troutman, a 26-year-old nurse, has been charged with breaking the bones of at least 7 Black infants in the NICU. The abuse first came to light in 2023 when a father noticed his son had a fractured leg while in the NICU. Despite his concerns, the hospital dismissed the injury as the accident, closed their investigation, and placed Erin on paid leave. Erin was allowed later to return to work, and in 2024, new evidence emerged that she had harmed not just his son, but 6 other Black newborns, leading to her arrest. And instead of the hospital firing her, they put her on paid leave for a year. She was allowed to return back to work and allegedly to harm more babies. She is 26. She is not from another time. This is 2025 in the United States, and this nurse who took a medical oath to do no harm. This case isn't just about unimaginable cruelty. It's also about how a system failed to protect vulnerable infants, and when these victims are disproportionately Black, we can't ignore the role that race may have played. And if I'm telling you that Black babies were tortured by a white nurse, and your response is, "Why are you always making it about race?" I want you to understand that you're part of the problem too. And that's that on that.
Oof. That's good, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Mm-hmm. It's just always kind of disheartening to hear these things like come to light, and especially in healthcare. I mean, when these people are dead, are supposed to kind of, take care of the sick and the needy, or in these vulnerable moments. And so you entrust them almost with your life, and to hear some of these things taking place. And so, it's a sad state, man. I don't know.
Just imagine you just have a baby and you just go and see your baby and the bones are broken. Like,
crazy. Which should be a joyous moment, and now you're dealing with something else. But once again, brother, we appreciate you just educating us and keeping us informed with your rants, and so we definitely appreciate it. All right, so talking about my boy Jeezy. Adversity for sale.
One last time.
I know I can't.
Young Jeezy.
The snowman.
Look, talking about the book, look, we got 4 8s on the review aspect of it. Talked about just hip hop culture, kind of where it's been, where it is now, where it may be going. And my brother just killed this rant once again. And so, Isaiah, tell them what we have coming up for next month here on 4 Friends in a Book.
Hey guys, before we let you go, you do not understand how I've been advocating for you all. I've been trying to put this book on the show for the last 4 years. I have been pushing it, and now it's finally here. This is not just one of my favorite books or one of my favorite authors, and I'm not going to even be biased about my opinion, but we're going to be talking about Heavy by Casey Layman, and you do not want to miss it. L'Real, please let the viewers know when they can tune in.
Well, after you go and get a glass of Cavassier from because it's heavy. Some brown. Need some Hennessy or something. Golly. Okay, Thursday. You can tune in for us every third Thursday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to have you with us.
Yes, and if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that button. And on social media, follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook.
Right.
Absolutely. And for our podcasters that listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. We would love to get that feedback from you guys as well. Please. And as always, let's continue to read. Let's learn, let's grow, and let's have a discussion right here on 4 Friends in a Book. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.